Anyways, just want to share a quick word on this past week's parsha of Vayechi. It's very neged lima that we're having over here about Chis Amesim. So it's a Gemara Tainus that Hayom Beis. The Gemara says that Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak Kavyasu Besudasa. Rav Nachman and Yitzchak were sitting together by a Suda. Rav Nachman and Yitzchak Lema Mar Milsa. Rav Nachman says to Yitzchak, Zogap is say something. Amalei Hochi Amar Rabbi Yechanan Ein Mesichem Besuda. So Rabbi Yechanan says we don't talk during the meal. Why? Maybe the food will go down the windpipe instead of the food pipe, and then you'll choke. And he'll choke. Basa desod after the Suda, he said this is what Rabbi Yechanan says. Yaakov Avinu loy meis. So Yaakov Avinu didn't die. He said they made his bathing for him, and they embalmed him the way that they would mummify him. So they did that to Yaakov to preserve him. It keeps the body intact. Every now and then they dig up these mummies and whatever, and there's still something there, And they buried him for nothing. She says the Darash in a Pasuk. Shenema, Va'ata al tira avdi Yaakov no Hashem. Pasuk in Yirmiyah says, and you should not fear my servant Yaakov, al techas Yisrael, ki hineni Moshiach me'rochek ve'zarachem eretz. Shivyam. Makish hula zara. Mazara b'chaim, afu b'chaim. So just like his children are alive, so too he's alive, which we saw in our Gemara also on Tzadim and Beis and Sanhedrin. Ba'aron HaKayin, Mazara b'chaim, afu b'chaim. This is the Gemara of Chis Amesim, of Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Fine. I could hear the word here, the Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Pseder, nice. What's the whole beginning of the Gemara? Right? They were sitting by a Suda. He says, yeah, what are you tying? No, we don't talk. And then what's the word that he tells him? Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Obviously, it's Dvarim Gedalim over here. It's not Stam that they're sitting by a Suda. It's not Punkt in the Velderine. Let's just say over what the Chita explains how to understand this Gemara. He says, the Yaakov Avinu's avodah was to be Mesak in the Chet of Adam Rishon. And what happened was like this. When you eat something, what was the Chet of the Eitz Hadas? He ate. It was Achila. When you eat something, the food that you eat, that you're nana from, it goes into the bloodstream. And the blood goes around the entire body. The only part of the guf that never gets affected by this achila is the kana, is the windpipe. So it's not stam that it's a sakana, but the pshat is that it's part of the odam. It's a chelik of the odam that never had a pagam from the chet of Adam Rishon. If you pay attention to what's discussed by Unz and Mismedrash, we're always talking about that he had the nefesh chaya, that is bruch mamala, that he has a koyach hadibur. What's so significant about the koyach hadibur? What is it about the koyach hadibur? So, yeah, it's a mila over an animal, but what is it? What is that mila? The mila is that when Adam was chaytis, the whole world went down, right? But this is one part of the mensch. The koyach hadibur of the mensch wasn't nifgam by the chet of Adam Rishon, and Yaakov Avinu was able to be mesaken the chet of Adam Rishon. So Yaakov Avinu loy meis doesn't mean he didn't physically die, right? Could be he physically died, but the fact that he was able to be masak in the Chet of Adam Rishon, that was the chiyus that he had. So that's the pshat in. He said, "What do you say by when you say something?" He said, "We can't talk during the Suda because shemi active kind of levation. We have to make sure that we're not poigim in the Koyach HaDibur." Interesting. He doesn't bring this, but he brings a lot of other gemaras. He brings all the what's so bad about Dvarim Hasurim, right? The Chafetz Chaim shrives about Geverlich and Shmiras HaLashon all over the place. He counts how many lav and how many esed a person ever says Lashon Hara. He says one line about that guy, he split his pants, it's Geverlich, right? What's so bad? See, he says something, I understand the guy gets embarrassed and it's wrong and you shouldn't do it, but what's the Chomer HaIsser? Pshat in the Chomer HaIsser is because he's so, the only part of the Adam that wasn't Nifgam from the Chet of Adam Rishon was the Chadibah, because it wasn't shaykh for him, because if the food would have went down his windpipes, then he would have choked l'chatchila, right? I mean, it's interesting because if you look around the Mefarshim, everybody says different things. Different parts of the Adam weren't nifgam. This famous Torah that the koyach hareach, the chush hareach wasn't nifgam because that has to do with Mashiach, because that's harich b'eretz Hashem. And there's also Ramami Panu that talks along the lines of that the hands of Adam Rishon didn't want to touch, and Chava had to spoon feed him the food. But upon him, the lagabe, what's negeya for us is the koyach hadibur wasn't nifgam by the chet of Adam Rishon. meaning Hagam that the whole Tzuras Adam went down and was minimized, but the Etzem L'Kach HaDibur still stays stark. So that's a pshat why he says, after the Suda, he told him this vart of Yaakov Avinu Lemeis. So if I'm not mistaken, the Chidok goes weiter over there, and he talks about that Kanas, Gematria, that Yosef, and all kinds of other things that he's there to work out, but Al Kapanim, this is an Akuda of Yaakov Avinu Lemeis, and it tells us very nicely to the Gemara that we're learning. Fine. So let's start our Gemara for tonight. Yes, it's 4 lines from the bottom. On Tzadi Amud Beis, we're getting close to the bottom of the Amud. This is a siyum in and of itself. So it goes like this: Sheala Cleopatra Malkasa asked Meir. Cleopatra, the queen, asked Meir the following question. So who was she? She's actually mentioned 3 times in Shas. This is one of them. She's mentioned in Avodah Zarah, on Daf Zayin, or Daf Ches, and she's also mentioned in Nida and Daf Lamed. Whatever the story was of the Yavitz and Avodah Zarah goes through, who she was, where she came from. Anyways, so Shoala Cleopatra Malka says Meir, she asks Meir, Omra, she says, Yodana Dechaya Shechvi, I know that the Mason are going to become alive. I believe in Tchias HaMason. She didn't say she believes, she says she knows that there's going to be Tchias HaMason. Let's just put it that way. The Pasuk says, Until him v'yatzitzu me'ir ke'esav ha'aretz. And they'll pop out of the city, they'll sprout out from the city like the grass of the ground. And what this means is that the people, the Mason that died, they're going to be the Bnei Yisrael that died. They're going to sprout forth from the ground, just like grass sprouts forth from the ground. And the ear that we're talking about over here is Yerushalayim. So Ella, her question is like this. This is what I want to know. This is what she's asking Rameir. Kshein Aimdin. When they get up for Tchias HaMason, Aimdin Arumen, Abel V'Shein Aimdin. Do they stand up without clothing or with clothing? Omar Loser, Meir says to her, Kalvachomer Mechit, we have a Kalvachomer from wheat. Ma'achita shenikvura aruma. Yaitza bekama levushin, tzadikim shenikvorim bilvushayan, alachas kam v'kama. It's a very interesting point over here. She says, Meir says the Kalvachomer from Mechita. Now what's a chita? A wheat kernel. You put it in the ground, right? When you, shenikva aruma. You put it in the ground, it's just a wheat kernel. There's nothing on it, there's nothing around it. Right? But when the wheat grows, it comes out with all kinds of levushim, right? Doesn't mean that the wheat has clothing on it, but it means that there's there's different coverings. There's the chaff and the shells and all the other kinds of klippas that are surrounding the actual kernel. So too the tzaddikim that are nikvarim bilvushayim, that the tzaddikim that are buried in their tachrichim, so they're going to stand up, by Tchias HaMason, they're going to stand up with their begadim. So it's interesting, because she didn't say anything about tzaddikim, and Rameir is answering her that the tzaddikim are going to get up in the levushayim. But it's interesting, because it's not what she asked. It's not what she's talking about. And Bechlal, Kal Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelik Le'Olam Haba, and all the other Gemul at the end of times, meaning Olam Haba and Gan Eden and Mashiach, and really these things are for all of Klal Yisrael. I mean, for the most part, Ve'elu she'en lehem chelik, that's the list of people that that are going to be missing out in this good. So let's see what's going on over here. So Yadana, let's just see Rashi. On the bottom, 6 lines in the bottom line, Rashi, the Chai Shechvi Shamesim Chaim, I know that the Mesim are going to be alive. Ve'yatzitzu me'ir shasidim Yisrael lotzitz ulefrech me'ir Yerushalayim. That the Yidden are going to sprout forth from the city of Yerushalayim. The Gemara says in Ksubis, of Kuf Yud Aleph, there is another big Gemara about Tchias HaMason, very similar along the lines that we're talking over here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oisel lehem mechilas latzadikim v'holchem v'olam l'Yerushalayim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes mechilas, makes tunnels under the ground for the tzadikim, and they have to go through these mechilas and get to Yerushalayim. Right at the beginning of Parshas Vayechi, Yaakov Avinu said, "Don't al nasik breni b'Mitzrayim." One of the reasons is that he wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. So he didn't have to go through the tsar of the Gilgul Mechilas. It seems that it's part of the, I don't want to say einish, but one of the facts of being buried in Chutz La'aretz is that you're going to have to be transported through these Mechilas, this Gilgul Mechilas, to get to Eretz Yisrael, to be Mekayim, the Vayetzitzu Me'ir, and Yaakov Avinu wanted to be buried Dafka in Eretz Yisrael, so he didn't have to go through this tsar of Gilgul Mechilas. Weistais is a tsar, that's the Gemara Ksubas talks about, but my father actually said a very interesting pshat in it. It had nothing to do with Gilgul Mechilas per se, but Bechlal, what was this big inyan that Yaakov and Yosef, they all had their minds to be buried in Eretz Yisrael? What's the nafkamina? They're here, so let them live here, let them be buried here. But the pshat is that the emunah that Klal Yisrael has, that comes from Yaakov Avinu, taka from this week's parasha, is very much that we're in Galus, we don't belong in Mitzrayim. Our ikar home, we're a person puts away for his home, right? The person puts away, so he's going to put away his bones, he's going to put away his goof. You know, it's storage for the meantime. You know, you have a toy when you're a kid, and you finish using it, and you use it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and your mother puts it in the basement, right? And then you get older, and you get married, and you have your kids, and you bring the toys back out, right? That's a type in storage, right? You're going to use it again. It's going to be used again. But where do you keep the storage? You want to keep the storage as close to your home as you can. You want to store it in Utah. What's that going to help, right? Yaakov Avinu and Yosef were showing that they wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to be buried in their home. They don't want to be buried elsewhere, because it's in Mitzrayim is Galus. Mitzrayim is not the place where Yid belongs. Yid belongs in Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to shdel avek. They didn't even achar chaye chayusam ala hadama that they should be buried in Eretz Yisrael. So that besides the Gilgul Mechilas. The Gilgul Mechilas is a chelik of the Galus be'etzim still, if you can look at it like that. We're not going to get into now what this Gilgul Mechilas business is, but there's a lot of Torah on it. But one of the other basic things that they tie together with is that Asar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says machal la tzadikim. There's going to be a machal for the tzadikim. Shaykh in of these mechilas, this machal, as I say, is chaloim and machal and loichem and all kinds of things. Without getting into all that now. But the point is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu oisel hem mechilas la tzadikim v'holchem v'olim l'Yerushalayim. So again, Rashi also mentions this idea of the tzadikim. So there's a lot of different nekudas here in the Gemara. First of all, I just want to point out that it's Dafka, she's asking Meir. Vus epis Meir. I mean, technically she could have asked any of the other Gedolei Yisrael at the time also. And Meir was known to be able to answer questions. But this answer is very befitting, a very tzugapas for Meir, because the Medrash says that B'terasi shel Meir was kasav kastnus or with an aleph. That Meir was holding on a madrega of being mesak on Adam Rishon Kad Machet. What does that mean? So it says that after Adam Rishon was chayte, the pasuk says that he made kastnus or by albishem, kastnus or with an ayin, which means skin, and he made himself some kind of layer of skin to wear that he shouldn't be embarrassed to wear after the chet, because now that he had this awareness that he's going to be mevurish when he's not wearing clothing, because Kad Machet there was no clothing. Right? It's a big shmooze over here. This is where the shmooze is, that Lachat Ches HaMesim, is there going to be clothing or not? Because if we're mamish on the Madreg of Adam, then we wouldn't need clothing. Right? But Lamaisa could be that even though we have, there was a certain, the Yadu Kerumim Haim, they found out that they were Arum, so that awareness that they were Arum was because of the Chet. To say very balbatish almost. It's a pressed way of speaking. But to say that there was a certain tmimus that they had, that they didn't realize that there was anything wrong with the fact that they were Arum. It wasn't something wrong. They just didn't realize that they were Arum. There was no need for clothing. If a person could get so drunk he doesn't even realize he's wearing clothing, so he doesn't realize he's not wearing clothing. Everybody else sees that he's not wearing clothing. It wasn't a musik bichlal to understand that there was even a need to wear clothing. The whole musik of wearing clothing was a foreign concept. So once he was chayt, then it came about this awareness. All of a sudden, he was yudei tayvira. That brought about a certain level of busha. Till now, there was no concept of, till the chet, there was no concept of busha b'chlal. Now the shaykh busha, everything was perfect. Busha means that you feel lower than you feel lowly about yourself. How does the shaykh to feel lowly if you're the spitz madrega? So lavush is loy baish. We wear clothing, so we shouldn't be embarrassed. The whole fact that we wear clothing is to protect against the embarrassment of the Chet of Adam Rishon. And there's a lot of talk about this, but that's so kastnus or in the Torah is written with an ayin. Because it means skin, it was kastnus or. But B'Torah Shor Meir, the Meir says it was written kastnus or with an aleph. That it was lichtig. Because the the Meir was on the Meir means right? So shaykh to the name of a person that identifies what the Messiah said a person is. His name was Meir, or the Gemara says is Reb Nahirai, right? Reb Nahirai was Reb Meir. Either way, it means it's a lashon of or, right? So he had in his Torah, it said kasnas or with an aleph. Why did it say kasnas or with an aleph? Because he was holding on the madrega to elevate the skin from being a physical concept into a ruchnistic concept of lichtigkeit. So that's very good pass to say that for Reb Meir. Now, what does he answer her? He answers her kal v'chomer mechita. What's chita? Eit she'achal mimena adam rishon chita hoisa. One of the 6 or 7 pshatim in what Adam Rishon was chayte. What was the tree? What was the Eitz Hadas? What was it? Some say it was a Te'ena. Some say it was a Esrig. Some say it was a Gefen. Right? But some say it was a Chita. And Nishna them, but the Chita was an actual tree. And after the Chet Adam, it turned into grass, into stalks. Right? There's a lot of Torah in this also. But the point is that this whole teretz that Reb Meir is answering her is talking very, very much about Reb Meir's avodah, and really everybody's avodah of being Masaka the Chet of Adam Rishon. So he's telling her that it's a kal v'chomer from a chita. A chita is what brought about this. The chita is what caused this whole chsaron of the whole mitzvah. The Chet of Adam Rishon came about because of the chita. There's a Gemara Brachas that says on Daf Mem Eina Tinik Yodas Lukre Abba Ima Achatayim Tam Dogon. That this is very interesting halacha. It's very negea. That a child isn't considered having shaykhis to das bichlal until he's time tamchita, and then he's able to say, meaning he's not able to say Abba or Ima. I mean, it's different nuschas and different gemaras until he's time tam dogon or tamchita. Once he tastes chita, then he's a level of das. Again, this is coming from this idea that chita brings awareness to a person, right? That was the whole concept of what happened by Adam Rishon. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of talk. The Svarim will talk about this by Pesach. That's what you're doing with the matzah. Because a person doesn't come to recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Haidan HaKadosh Baruch Hu until he's time Tamchita, which is the matzah. Obviously, this matzah is also coming to be Mizak and the Chet Adam Rishon, and that's the Omer is after that is following through with that as well. And it's a very interesting thing, right? It's a funny halacha, but a newborn baby, even in his dirty diapers, you're allowed to make a bracha in front of. It's in the same room, even if he's... Why? Because he wasn't toyim tam dogon. Once he eats real food, then you have to be marchik from tzayasai and ervasai. That's when it's considered erva, and that's when it's considered a real tzaya. And it goes very good along these lines that we're talking about, that the chita brought a certain level of awareness, a certain level of das, a certain level of... Now we have to distance from his tzaya because there's something really bad here. We have to distance from the erva because there's something that's not sneers, that's not good over here. So that's the thing over here.
Once you said pshat that what the Eitz Hadas was chita, I still like the kal v'chomer was like a shtickle, like a weird kal v'chomer, like it seems like a bit funny, like a bit interesting. Once you say that, it makes it a little better.
You're saying in Pashup Pshat in the Gemara, it helps
it's like a weird kal v'chomer, it's just like...
Yeah, but right. So l'chayim and Pashup Pshat in the Gemara, it just means that you're putting something in that's very minimal layers, and you put it in the ground without any of the chiddush is the Taisus and Menachah speaks this out, that even if you would plant it, that no matter how you plant it, it's always going to come out with all these levushim. Meaning, even if you plant it without the levushim, the way it grows back with all these levushim. Okay, that's that's really in Pashup Pshat in the Gemara. In terms of looking at it from a more agadic perspective, with understanding of the different theories of what's going on in Yiddishkeit and whatever, this is much more batamt when we're saying that everything is on the road to be Masak and Chet Rishon, right? And we have a couple of other Gemaras just about Chita, just to mention. The Gemara in Brachas and Daf Nun Zayin says that Haroya Chitim B'Chaloim Roa Shalom. Person who sees Chitim in a dream, he sees peace. Shenemar Hasam Gevulech Shalom Chelev Chitim Yazbiach. That Chitim bring peace and satisfaction to a person, as I state in Pasuk. And there's another Gemara in Brachas and Daf Samach Aleph that Shmuel says that the Yitzhahara is Kechita Nidmeh Shenemar LePesach Chatas Revetz, and Chatas is Lashon Chita. Chet Chita. It's the same. The ches and the test that are there. It's the ches and the test that are here. That's it's gematria and not gematria. It's chita, chatas, chet. It's all the same, which brings to mind the famous Ramah in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. It says that we don't eat egois on Rosh Hashanah because egois is gematria chet. So we want to stay away from things that even have a remes to chet. And the Kotzke said of them that the pshat is that. Don't forget that chet is also gematria chet. Everyone gets so far from about minhagim, they forget about the basics. But it's very interesting that in Yeshaya, Rashi in Yeshaya, so it's very interesting. I don't know enough about this, but many times in Nach, there were things added into Rashi from the printer, right? I one time had a whole fight with this about this with somebody because Rashi doesn't quote the Ramah. That doesn't make any sense. The Ramah was in the 1500s and Rashi was in the 1100s. It doesn't mamish shtim good with the years. But upon the printers of the Nachs and edited Rashi and edited the other stuff, so they put in Ha'aris into Rashi. So somewhere in Yeshaya, I think, I don't remember if it's Park Yud Aleph, Park Chav Aleph, I don't even know what pasuk is going on over there, but basically the Ramah says, Rashi, the editor of Rashi brings this Ramah in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, and he has the following question. He said, Egois is also gematria toiv. So then why don't we eat it on Rosh Hashanah?
But Etzim, it still has the gematria of chet.
So.
But it cancels out.
So I think that the answer is, I don't remember exactly what the answer is given over there, but the answer that we like talking about is, what happened by the Chet of Adam Rishon? Was there Ra in the world before the Chet of Adam Rishon? 100%. But to quote the Lashon of the Ramban, it was Gekelev Hamnabech Mibachutz. It was outside, it wasn't an internal conflict. It was an external conflict, meaning it was a bad guy that lived down the street that he was going to come into to do something bad. But internally, you were 100% good. Right? So he had to chip away at you internally in order to get you to be chayte. But what happened was, by the Chet Adam Rishon, that the Lashon of Gemara is that the Nachash was matel zuhama into Adam and Chava. Really, it says the Chava he was Beker matel zuhama into, but he basically injected ruchnistige poison into Adam and Chava. So now, it instead of it being an external conflict, it's an internal conflict. So now we have a mix of Tov and Ra. If something's 100% Ra, everybody knows to stay away from it, right? I forgot exactly the word, but forgot who they say it from. But the Torah comes with all kinds of frumkeit and all kinds of gewaltige cheshbonis, right? As Asher Asas Adam Yasher V'hem Bikshu Cheshbonis Rabbim. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made Adam Yasher. The Yitzhahara comes with all kinds of cheshbonis and all kinds of frumkeit and all kinds of terutzim. You'll say you're doing chesed. Sometimes you get away from learning. You say doing chesed. Sometimes you get away from chesed. With the time that you were learning, right? As long as you're not doing the right thing. No, if the Torah would come to you and tell you, do avodah zara, it's like you're not interested in such a thing. Tell them, listen, you can get if you do avodah zara now, it'll be a marshal for what your davening could be for tomorrow. It'll be so dazar slavos. So you're just practicing. You don't mean it l'shem avodah zara. You mean it. It'll be like a shtickle mahalach to get you to daven better tomorrow, right? What does the Gemara say? Hayay memela say kach, and then kach and kach and kach until it tells you like a right? But it starts from Cain, and that's how he's going to get you. That's the worst kind of a Yetzer Hara, because we're so confused by what's right and what's wrong. Do we know what's right and what's wrong? We can almost never tell, right? If I care, you see a guy sitting in Beis Medrash, you take a picture of him and you post it all over the world, Masmid Hadar, right? But this young man hasn't been home in 3 months and never even said one word to his wife yet in the past 3 months. Masmid is there, maybe in the terms of the people seeing him in the Beis Medrash, but that's not such a kosher thing, right? There's a problem. So the point is that it's gematria chet, and it's also gematria type, and that's exactly why we're staying away from it. Not because Egoiz is going to cancel out, because Chet is going to cancel out Toiv, or Toiv is going to cancel out Chet. I'd argue with you, because I would say the Midah Toiv and Meruba. Whatever. I could use these kinds of times. But the point is that there's a Taruvis over here. It's cloudy. It's unclear. It's we're not sure what's right and what's wrong. And it's all L'Shem Shemayim. It's all L'Shem Torah, L'Shem Tzidkus, L'Shem Frumkeit, L'Shem saving Klal Yisrael, Kiddush Hashem, all these things. It's meriting. That's what you're supposed to do. Really? It's a taruvis. That's what you have to stay away from. Because if it's klor ra, you're going to stay away from it. If it's klor toiv, you're going to run to it. So the Yetzer Hara chabs to it by making taruvis. But the whole world is like that. Since the Chet of the Rishon, the whole world was taruvis. Pshat is when we say that somebody like Meir was on a madrega, that he was able to write Kasnas Ar with Aleph, that means that he totally wiped out, and it was so clear by him. There was clarity. It wasn't a taruvis, it wasn't a mix, it wasn't a chalent, right? He had beans, one plate, barley, another plate, potatoes, another plate. It was klar.
He's doing it wrong.
It's klar. Everybody else, you don't know what's in here. It's semished. 1 minute you do azay, 1 minute you do azay. That's what the Yetzer Hara wants. That's what the point of everything is. So that's that. All right. Weiter gegangen. Let's see what else we have over here. I'm saying Stamazeh, just to mention this, that it was interesting that she why was she so curious about this? Shane Eimden. What was she driving at? What was she looking for? I mean, just to say that she was masking, to be masking to the Jews, other Jews have this idea that it's Tchis HaMesim. I mean, Goyim also believe in some kinds of things like this, But maybe she was coming because she had one belief. She wanted to see how the Jews believe. Interesting. Fine. So Yadana the Chai, she says that she knows that the Mesam are going to come alive. And later on, the Gemara uses the Lashon, the Shechvi Chaya. Chaya Shechvi, and then it says Shechvi Chaya. And it's partially because over here, her ikar question was, those that are going to become alive, how are they going to become alive? In what way are they going to become? Meaning, what are they going to look like when they become alive? And later on, the Gemara is going to ask, later on the question in the Gemara is that it was a question of Bechlal, that who said they're going to become alive. She came with a hanacha that they're going to become alive. So she says, Yadana, I know, the Chai Shechvi. Right? Then, so what's the pasuk? The pasuk that the Gemara brings is Vayatzitzu Meir Kesav Aretz. The full lashon pasuk is Tehillim Kapitel Ayin Beis pasuk Tazayin. Yehi Pisas Bar Ba'aretz B'Rosh Harim Yirash Kalavon and Period Vayatzitzu Meir Kesav Aretz. Rashi says that entire kapitel of Ayin Beis is discussing Melech HaMashiach. So Yirash Kalavon and Period. Rashi says that there's going to be chitin gasen keperisi ilon kekloya shel shor hagadol shahay b'meshim ben shetach. The Gemara Ksubis at the end over here talks about how the bracha and the shefa, the great shefa that they had in Eretz Yisrael at the time when Klal Yisrael was oisim retain shalmakim, and they had huge fruits. And a guy goes over to his neighbor and he says, you have goats that are eating up your field, you're eating up your grapes. So when you're talking about, there are no goats in my field. He said the fruits are so big. It's a Gemara Ksubis. He said the fruits were so big that it looked like they were the size of goats. It was fruits, it was figs, it was grapes, whatever it was, but it was so much bigger. It was mamish more ridiculous. Everything was more ridiculous sizes. And the Gemara here goes through a lot of different Gemara Ksubis. It goes through a lot of these different things. Rashi says, "Vayta vayatzitzu Yisrael me'ir mitoch Yerushalayim kesav haaretz." Very interesting. I saw how interesting ha'ara that this kapitel Ein Beis starts off with L'shleima Elikim Mishpatecha LaMelech Tein. That David HaMelech was singing Tehillim, a kapitel for Shleima, and he starts off Elikim Mishpatecha LaMelech Tein. Like Baruch is going to give to the Melech. So they want to say to Shtikl Raya that the Rambam writes in two places that we need to believe that Mashiach, this kapitel is about Mashiach. Rashi says it's going to come, that Rashi said this whole kapitel is talking about Mashiach. So the Rambam says in two places that we need to believe that Mashiach is going to come from Zerah Shlomo ben David. And we're talking about Tchias HaMesim, we're talking about this whole spiel with Tchias HaMesim, with Mashiach and everything. So Dafka in the place where we're talking about Tchias HaMesim, they took a pass to that it's Shlomo, because it's going to stem from Shlomo. Another interesting thing is that there's a minig. I didn't get a good chance to look into this, but there's a minig to pull out some grass when you leave a kever. So the pasuk refers to Tchias HaMesim, Vayetzitzu me'ir ke'esav ha'aretz. So maybe it's shayach to this Indian of grass, but that's al kaponim. There's just a lashon of Avester B'Nasan, which maybe we'll get a chance to go into a little bit more as we go weiter in Perek Chavav. Kol hakover be'eretz Yisrael, ki'ilu kover tachas hamizbeach, and kol hakover b'Yerushalayim, ki'ilu kover tachas kisei hakavod. It's a more the Galatian, right? Somebody who's buried in Eretz Yisrael, it's as if he's buried under the mizbeach, and somebody who's buried in Yerushalayim, it's as if he's buried under the kisei hakavod. It says the lashon of the Rambam comes from Chazal, comes from a Gemara, that I think it's Yerushalmi, that Adam Mimaku Kaparasei Nivra, that Adam Harishon was created, the Makam HaMizbeach, in the Beis HaMikdash and Har Moriah, that's where Adam Harishon was created from. Dafka in the Makam HaMizbeach. Adama, Adama, this kind of thing. The Rishiva Tzal used to talk about this a lot. He had a big moment. This why Dafka over here, it was very much Nigea, the Sukkot in Nisach HaMayim. What's Pshat in Nisach HaMayim? I'm not being the because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mavdil, the Mayim Elyonim and the Mayim Tachtainim, and the Mayim Tachtainim complained. And they said, I'm not being the Mayim Kodam Malka. The Mayim Tachtainim said they wanted to become close to Hashem. It's not fair that we should be all the way down on this earth. Right? Really, what are we talking about? Shteit in Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Mayim, right? And then on Yom Sheni, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mavdil Bein Mayim L'Mayim. It's like a passing of yeah? So what does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mavdil Bein Mayim L'Mayim. Hashem separated between the waters. Hashem took a big bucket and he put water here and put water there. It means that he took water. I don't think this means physical water in any way. And whatever, it's a midah and hoga or something. And he made it that there should be Mayim al Yonim. And there should be Mayim Tachtainim. And the Mayim Tachtainim complained that we also want to be close to Hashem. It's not fair. Right? It's like when we were kids, we used to fight over who could sit next to my father by the Suda. Right? It's not fair. Why should I sit in the back? I want to sit next to Tati. Right? Why should I sit at the end of the table? By the way, my seat was always at the end of the table anyways. But I was the one to, I want to be close to my father. Right? So they always said, I'm not being the Meheva Kodem Malka. It's very much high to the Indian that Adam Rishon was created Dafka, and we do Nisach HaMayim. We pour water, the pius that we give for the Mayim HaTachtainim, because we pour water there on Sukkot, B'Shas HaSukkot, B'Sheva. We can't get into the whole Torah now. There's a lot of Torah about this, but the point is that that's Adam Mimaku Kabarasei Nivra. Meaning, even before Adam Rishon was chayted, there was already a system in the world set up that he should have a kapara on the Mizbeach, on the Mizbeach Adama, because it's Adama is like Adam. Right? Adam min ha'adama, yeah, it's the same thing. Ramosha Shapir Zachein Levracha used to say, there's three ways to teach Adam. There's Adam, Afer Min HaAdama, that's Navardik. And then there's Adam, Adam El Elyain, that's Slabatka, Gadlus Adam. And then there's Adam, Aleph, Rechev Al Dam. A person's in full control of himself, in full control of all his facilities. That's Kelm. Yeah, it's all the three different schools of Musa. Al Kaponim, that's so Kol HaKavod B'Eretz Yisrael is Mimakru Kaparasei Nivra, right? I would venture to say that the Pashup Pshat in this is that a person who's buried in Eretz Yisrael gets Kaparas Havonis. So who cares that he's buried under the Mizbeach? Yippee. Right? The pshat is that the Makom HaMizbeach is the Makom Kapara for Klal Yisrael. Oda mi Makom Kaparasei Nivra. Mamela, Kol HaKavod B'Eretz Yisrael has this Maila of Oda mi Makom Kaparasei. Nivra, we're not talking about now, or Adam Rishon when he was created. But Kol HaKavod Tachas HaMizbeach, Kol HaKavod B'Eretz Yisrael, he's going to get a Kapara for Tchias HaMeisim. That is Kilu, he's covered Tachas HaMizbeach. Okay, then one last ha'ara, and I think we'll call it a night. There's big shmuas here about tachrichim, different zachen about burying people in white, right? So the minhag is that we bury people in white clothings, right? The joke, why do you wear we wear a kittel by the chuppah to remind you of the Yom HaMisa, right? So the joke is, why do you wear a kittel on the Yom HaMisa? This is to remind you of the Yom HaChuppah, right? So we wear kittel. One of the pshatim in kittel, why we wear white beged, is because it's to remind us of tachrichim, to remind us of Yom Adin. The Gemara Bracha says, we'll just say one quick word. The Gemara Bracha says that Lo'ilam Yargiz Adam Yetzer Tov Yetzer Hara, a person should always try to strengthen his Yetzer Tov against his Yetzer Hara. V'mlav Yask B'Torah. V'mlav Yekir Kriyishma. V'mlav Yask Lo Yom HaMisa. There's different steps. If you can't fight Yetzer Hara, what you should do. So one of the steps, the last step is Yask Lo Yom HaMisa. You should remember the Yom HaMisa. So Pashtus, you learn the Gemara that Yask Lo Yom HaMisa means that you should remember the day of death. You have to give them a cheshbon. So it's terrifying. So you won't sin. Seder. Chara is basic pshat. But what's the diuk? Yazkir lo yom hamisa. You should remind him of the day of death. Who's him? Who are you talking to? You're talking to your Yetzer Hara. You're telling your Yetzer Hara, listen, Rabbi, you're not here for so long. You're also going to get zapped one day. The Yetzer Hara is not around forever. Right? That's the Nazir min Adorim, famous Gemara, Adorim and Nazir. The Gemara says that Shimon ben Tzadik only ate from one carbon of a Nazir. So they asked him why he ate from it. So he went through the whole Hishtalshus Advarim of this guy. And the guy says that he was a very beautiful, handsome-looking guy, and he saw his reflection in the water when he went to draw water from the well for his father. And he says, Pochas ala Yitzri, but Yetzer Hara jumped on me and started to bikish l'tardenim in ha'olam, and wanted to let me away from this world. So I said to my Yetzer Hara, I said to him, that you're being mizgah ba'olam she'ein shalach. You're being mizgah, you're being a balgaiva on something that doesn't belong to you. You're not the balabas here. So Akash Baruch is the balabas, not you. You're not a mandamra, you're not a balabas. So Shiva Tzal pointed out that, what do we see about this guy? What's so special about this guy? What's the godless of the Nazir Shabbat Madar? He says, if you pay attention to the Onusach of how he spoke to his Yetzer Hara, he spoke to his Yetzer Hara as if the Yetzer Hara was an outside being, an outside existence. It wasn't internal, like we were talking before. He's totally an outside being. He's talking to him like, you're not a balabas. Once it's not internal anymore, it's much easier to deal with him. Right? Just get out of here, So Shimon and Tzadik saw that. They said, this guy's a good guy. He's able to totally uproot all the Rav from inside and talk to the Yetzer Hara as if it's an external device. Him I'm going to eat from. So that's Yaskir Lo Yom HaMisa. You remind him that he's Mizgah Ba'olam She'ein Shalach. it's going to come a time when Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to shech the Yetzer Hara, right? We know the Gemara Sukkah, Nun Beis, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. It's going to be a big ceremony, a big situation. Because, believe it or not, the Yetzer Hara is not Nitzchias. It doesn't last for so long. I mean, Kolzman, we're here, we have a Yetzer Hara, right? The Gemara always uses a term when someone passes away. The Gemara uses the term Noch Nafshe. The literal translation of Noch Nafshe means that his nefesh was Noch, it was b'menucha, was settled. Because Kolzman, a person's alive, it's a battle. It's going on between Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. Once it's dead, there's no more battle. So it's Noch, he's b'menucha. Now he's b'menucha. Now he can rest. Now he's at peace. So that's pshat in Noch Nafshe. So, yeah, so back to what we were saying. So that's the Yazkir Lo Yom HaMisa. So we were a kittel to be mazkir the Yom HaMisa. Maral says that kittel's big day malchus. The ikar and akuda of a kittel is that it's white. White shows tara, kashela galbinu. It shows purity. It shows tara is the hepech of chet. Chet is tumah. So this is the hepech of chet. White means malchus, purity. Just read a few lines in the Beersheva. It sounds like the tzaddikim, mashma she'asidim tzaddikim sheyamdu bil v'shem shenikvru dahainu tachrichim. Sounds like that they're going to get up in the tachrichim that they were wearing when they put them in the ground. Right? There's no suit stores in the ground. There's no frock man standing there giving out frocks as the people are coming out of the tunnels. Right? There's no Bekisha G&G. I don't know, maybe if Tchias HaMesim, there's going to be a G&G stand and everybody's going to have their Bekishes, popping out of the ground, with the...
Paragraph.
Yeah, so, so... Aval Birushalmi D'Hanaisei Omer Rebbe Lebanav Miatu B'Tachrichim Shatzidim Tzadikim Sheyamdu B'Lvusheim. There's Yerushalmi that says that Rebbe told his children that they should not spend a lot of money on the Tachrichim because the tzaddikim are going to get up in their levushim. Mashma miyatu b'tachrichim shasidim tzaddikim layamdu ela b'lvusheim mechayim. It sounds like that they're going to get up wearing the clothing that they were wearing in the lifetime. Look at Tosfos in Ksubis Tav Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. There's only one Tosfos there, so you can't look at any other ones. Mashma b'lvusheim shenikveru dahainu tachrichim. אבל בירושלמי דהנאיסה אומר רבי לבנוב מיעטו בתכריכים שעשיתם צדיקים שעמדו בלבושם. משמע מיעטו בתכריכים שעשיתם צדיקים שלא יעמדו בתכריכים אלא בלבושם החיים. So the Yerushalmi is saying that don't spend too much time with the tachrichim because no one's going to be wearing the tachrichim anyways. We're talking going to be wearing frocks and bekishes and nice things. It's not going to be tachrichim. Whereas Reb say Yerushalmi Shom Omar Alahid the Rebbe Omar Loikamay the Barnash Ozel Hu Asi. Rebbe said, the Yerushalmi says over there that a person doesn't come as he goes. It's different. He goes with one thing, he comes with something else. Rabbanon Amri Kamoy the Barnash Ozel Hu Asi. Before the Pligi Bezer Rebbe Rabbanon Vesril El Rabbanon the Emdim Bil V'Shem Shenikvru. So Machlek is Rebbe and the Rabbanon. His Rebbe holds that Loikamay the Barnash Ozel Hu Asi. That a person comes back by Tchias HaMesim in clothes like he wore b'chayav, nice clothing. Mashaim came, the Rabbanon hold that a person is going to be with Tachrichim. It's quite interessant because the Gemara here, Ksubis tells us, that Rebbe would come Friday night, Lel Shabbos, right? So Rebbe says, Kuf Gimel in Ksubis, Rebbe says, Ner Yehei Doluk B'Mkaimai, Shulchan Ye'orach B'Mkaimai, Mita Tehim Utzas B'Mkaimai. Wherever the candles were, he keeps them there, even after he died. Shulchan Ye'orach B'Mkaimai, the table should be set as it was when he was alive. Mita Tehim Utzas B'Mkaimai. My timer. Why? Kol Beishim Shevei Osi L'Beisi. Every Friday night he'd come to his house. Kol Beishim She'asoi Shivavosa. The neighbor came. Kakari Abava. Amra Amsei Shtiku, the Rebbe Yosef. He said, be quiet because Rebbe's here. Kevin the Shama, Shuv Le'osa, Shlei L'Haiti Laz Al Tzadikim HaRishayim. The neighbor saw that Rebbe was there. So she says, don't say that because don't disturb because Rebbe's making Kiddush. Rebbe's here. So he said he can't come back because it's going to be Moitzi Laz on the other tzaddikim that they don't come back to their houses after they die. Meaning that they'll say that these people weren't tzaddikim, they weren't able to come to their house. So it's not on this Gemara here, but it does say somewhere, could be it's in Sefer Hasidim, it could be it's a Gemara elsewhere, that Rebbe came in the same clothing that he would wear in the Shabbos Begadim that he would wear B'chayav. So let's just finish up with what the Be'er Sheva says. There's just an interesting machlekes Rebbe and Rabbanon, so maybe it's Rebbe L'Shitasei, because even after Rebbe was nifter, he didn't show up in Tachrichim. He showed up in the Shabbos Begadim. I don't think they buried him in the Shabbos Begadim. I want to go through another Gemara Ksubis in a second also. Let's just go like this. This is the Be'er Sheva. When a person dies, so the body rots, so the more clothing that's there, the more rotting there is over there. And kasha rima lemeis kamachat bebasar hachai. It's very, very painful for the neshama when the rima is happening. So he said to be memayit in the rima, in the memayit in the tachrichim, so it should be memayit in the rima. There's a lotion of kahidu shaninu be'evel rabasi saif parak test and evel rabasi, that's Masechtas Malchus. It says over there at the end of parak test that kol hamarba kelim alameis marba lova rima, that whoever's marba kelim, meaning clothing on a mace, you shouldn't do that because it's marba the rima. Marba basar marba rima. Okay. V'hoda nokat Reb Meir tzadikim v'loy nokat mesim. It's Be'er Sheva's question. Hainu mishum da amrina betainis taftesim with beis gvurz gishamim la tzadikim u'l'rishoyim. Right, the Gemara says that gedayla yema gishamim itchis hamesim. Why? Because gishamim is for rishoyim and tzadikim. Itchis hamesim is just for tzadikim. Okay, the Be'er Sheva writes more. He says like this. He quotes from Evel Rabosi, it's brought in the Torah. And Reb Nasan Omer, it's a Lashon Rishalmi. Reb Nasan Omer, Ksus hayeredes im hameis, l'she'oil hiba. L'she'oil hiba imay lasad lavai. She'namar teshabech kachoy marchoysam vayis yatzvu kemoy levosh. The way clothing was when he died, that's how he's down in Gehenna, and that's how he's going to come back to life. But Pashtus, we're not talking about physical zachin, because like that Gemara and Yud Ches and Brachas, right, with the Neshamas, the two Neshamas, and Rosh Hashanah, and the Beis HaKvaros, and they're flying around. They could fly around, can't fly around, and he was able to know everything that was going to happen from him throughout the year, because he was listening to what the two young girls were talking about. So he was able to know, right? The tzlach over there murchers on what does it mean that she was tied up in a machzelas over there. Right? It's not physical stuff, and neshamas aren't physical things. Kos have Haran in Mlkata, kol ha'eset tachrichim noam lemeis v'chashuvim makirim bay shehu moidel etchias hamesim v'tovei lov bracha. Fascinating thing. The Ran says in Mlkata, the Be'er Sheva quotes this Ran, that somebody who makes nice tachrichim for a mace, it shows he believes in etchias hamesim. Because if you don't, just throw them in the garbage. What are you spending money? What are you spending time? What are you spending effort? But there's a very interesting thing. If you look at the Gemara Ksubis, it says like this. I'll just read it to you, the Gemara inside. It's a Gemara about Avelus. It's a very sad kind of a Gemara, but it's a very interesting part of it. That gets a lot of people excited about a little bit. So he goes like this. Every day during the Shiva, they would drink 10 cups of wine. That was the minhag. The Chacham were mesakin. Shloisha koydem achila, k'tei levtarach es b'nei meyav. People are very, very tzibrach, and it's very hard for them to eat. So you drink wine, and it gives you an appetite. Shloisha b'toich achila, k'tei lishres achila shebemeyav. 3 cups of wine to drink during the meal to help settle the stomach. Ve'arbo la'achar achila, and 4 after the meal. Echad kineged hazan, 1 kineged the first bracha. Echad kineged birkas haaretz, the second bracha of benching. Ve'echad keneged Bnei Yerushalayim. That's the third bracha of benching. Ve'echad keneged Hatov Ha'metiv. And one keneged Hatov Ha'metiv. That's only 4. Ha'sifa alein arba. Then they added another 4. Echad keneged Chazonei Ha'ir. One for the Chazonei Ha'ir, which are some kind of official people in the city. Ve'echad keneged Parnas Ha'ir, those that support the city. Ve'echad keneged Beis HaMikdash. Ve'echad keneged Rabbi Gamliel. And then they made another one keneged Beis HaMikdash and another one keneged Rabbi Gamliel. What was this all about? Schilu hayu shayson mishtakrin. Everyone was running to the Beis Havel because there was crazy parties going on over there. Hechzira hadavar liyoshna. So then they brought it back to the old, more somber way of sitting shiva. And it probably was more like dancing shiva than sitting shiva. So my Rabbi Gamliel. Well, what's this business with Rabbi Gamliel? The Tanya we learned in the Brayza B'Rishayna. It used to be that it was more difficult for the relatives of the mace to carry the mace out of the house. It was more difficult for the family to do that than the actual misa. They would just leave him there and they would run. Why would they do that? Yeah? So the thing is like this: there was so much peer pressure at the time to bury in such fancy tachrichim that people who couldn't afford the $25,000 tachrichim and they would only be able to spend $15,000 on tachrichim. It was such a busha that they couldn't take the person out to kvura. So they would just like dump him somewhere and run away. They would be mizalzel in the maze because of the peer pressure, right? Until Ram Gamliel came about and he was knowing a certain kalus to himself. What was the kalus? They took him out in regular linen clothing, regular $5 cheap stuff. And that was the standard, that everybody would do klei pishtan, because that's Ram Gamliel shtalda vek. Omer Papa ve'idna nog alma afilu b'tzrada barzuza. They would buy tachrichim mamash cheapy weepy stuff. The Tzrada Barzuza Rashi says beged kan by she'ena shav el dinner. It was only worth a dinner, very very cheap. And let's get past halacha that kol am acher of lahitzi b'klei pishtan. Take a look in the Yeridei Shunun Beis. It's mavor there halacha. So that's a pshat. And the Lashon Shulchan Aruch is ein koven ames b'tachrichim yikar mafilu l'nasi shebi Yisrael. It doesn't matter your status in life, your status in death, you get the same tachrichim. It doesn't matter, right? Al tira ki yashu ishkir b'kvoid b'isay ki loy b'moisi kacha koliyer acher b'kvoidoi. You don't got nothing, My father always says over the marshal the Chavetz Chaim, right? They sing songs about it today already, but guy comes to the Chavetz Chaim's house and he saw the Chavetz Chaim had a broken table and a broken chair and a half broken svarim shank. So I asked him, this guy was like a gvir, so asked Chavetz Chaim, where's your furniture? So he asked the gvir, where's yours? He said, I'm not, I don't live here, I'm just passing through. Chavetz Chaim said, me too, I'm also passing through, I'm not here to stay. Just saying before B'Yaakov Avinu, we're not here to stay, it's temporary, it's Gulz is temporary, life is temporary. It's interesting. This life now is temporary. That's permanent. That's good. But if you live your life now, today that you in a level that we should be able to get to there, das is 11, right? Saying there's a whole Torah that Rosh Hashanah used to say that Sarah died because of the Akedah, right? Because right? So that's not what it means. It's not because she was so shocked because of the Akedah that she died. In order for there to be such a thing as Misa, there has to be a thing as Tchias HaMesim. The first one that was Zeichet to Tchias HaMesim was Yitzchak. Because when Pikar of Lezer states that when he got off the Mizbeach by the Akedah, he said, Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya HaMesim. You ever notice why the second bracha in Shmonesh is Mechaya HaMesim? The first bracha is Magen Avram, the second bracha is Yitzchak. Yitzchak said that exact bracha that we say. Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya HaMesim. Whatever Gvurz Kishamim, that's the Gemara Tainus we mentioned, but that's a separate shmuz. But the point is, I say, The point is that in order for there to be a Yiddish Misa, there has to be Tchias HaMesim. Because it's like the toys that you put down in the basement. You're going to bring them up in 20 years from now. It's not, the Goyim, the way that they treat Mesim, there's no cover on Mesim Bechlal by the Goyim. It's computer garbage disposal. It's not more than garbage disposal. When a cat dies in the street, right? Hey, whatever, you get rid of it. You bury it, goodbye, whatever. Compost, right there. Use it for fertilizer. Sei gesund. People burn bodies. Punkt. There's a lashon I remember saying from the Seder Sherish Avodah a long, long time ago, that he says that even bodies that were drowned and were burnt and were chopped up and all these things, all these people are also zeichet to Tchias HaMesim. Could be we spoke about it more recently, but that's the that's the point. So it's interesting because we mentioned the Ran says that somebody makes tachrichim noam l'meis, so then it shows that it's being made with Tchias HaMesim. So what was this whole? What was the problem with what was going on at this Ma'aseh in Ksubas?
It's good, but maybe it's out of hand.
Yeah, I think that's a pshat. So I wrote over here like this, that Avada, when they started off with nice tachrichem, Avada, when they started off with this, they meant it b'kavana taiva, they meant well, because they wanted to show that they believed in Tchias HaMesim. But then, over time, people just did it because it looked nice. And it became a thing that everybody has to do it like this. And if you don't do it, he doesn't fit in. He's like mufka. He's like poor. He's like, doesn't get it. He's not like, he's not like us. He doesn't have this $500 bottle of schnapps by the kiddush. We're not going to be mishadach with him. It's bad stuff. So Rabbi Gamliel we think Rabbi Gamliel couldn't afford it. Rabbi Gamliel is from the wealthiest people of his generation, Mistama. You think he couldn't afford it? He could afford it. He just wanted to he was makbar and covered amaze. He was mizalzel in himself. Kidei, that other people should follow him, and kidei, that other people should be able to bury their dead. He was so makbar and covered amaze, he was willing to be mizalzel in himself. That's like a Gemara de Gekalus ba'atzmai. That's the Gemara saying. I'm just reading a Gemara, I'm not telling you Rebbe Shutairis. This is what it is. So if Shunun Beis in Yeridei Shunun Beis if Aleph and Karvin Ames b'Tachrichim Yikar Mafilu Nasi Shebi Yisrael, because we're all going to the same place, right? Nasi Shebi Yisrael gets the same Tachrichim as the poor guy gets the same as Nasi Shebi Yisrael. So if Beis is not Guluk Var B'Gadim Levanim, that's what we were talking about before. That's the shmuz. Yeah. Just to end off on a little happier note, we'll just say, all right?